the colors of your shadow in the silence of the deep. Darkness, darkness, hide my yearning for the things that cannot be. Free my mind from constant yearning towards the things I cannot see now. Towards the things I cannot see. Darkness, darkness, none amongst them. It's the day that brings my heaven. I have passed the edge of sadness. Now I hide the depth of fear. Darkness, darkness, be my blanket. Cover me with endless night. Take away the pain of nowhere. Fill the emptiness inside. Fill the emptiness inside. Oh.
Richie Havens with Darkness, Darkness. This was the tune that first came out in 1969 by the Youngbloods. Recorded it first, and then Havens did his version, which we just heard, in 1994 on the album Cuts to the Chase. Havens died at his home in Jersey City, New Jersey, on April the 22nd, 2013. He was 72 years old. This is Leid Stories. I'm Utrice Leid. And we cannot but pay attention to the cataclysmic events of the last week, getting more and more foreboding by the day. And I'm referring to, of course, the events going on in the so-called Middle East. I have been searching and reading everything I could put my hands on to provide what I think is not just a comprehensive explanation of what has gone on, but also to have something of a feeling of authority in reporting. The materials I'm reading definitely do not come across as materials that are independent or that are taking a look at a major world development, not from the point of view of whether they're telling this country's story or that country's story, but whether they're telling the story. Everything I read, my hackles are up because it's tremendous propaganda. And this you have to watch out for, especially given not only the countries involved, but the actors involved. As you know, the chief military leader in that area was assassinated last Thursday. And we've heard many versions of the story. But at this point, let's set those aside for the moment and let's react viscerally from what we feel because we have been in this place many, many times before. Although, from our perspective, one of the main actors, and I'm referring to Donald Trump, has not come under close scrutiny, not like this before. And his actions and reactions are telling us quite a lot. We shouldn't be taking sides in that traditional sense where you favor this group of people or you favor that person over others, and therefore your analysis will be skewed. You're taking as objective a look as you possibly can, relying not on the reports themselves, but relying on your own intuition of what you know, of what you have experienced before as a consumer of information brought to all of us through several processes that essentially instruct us on what our attitudes should be, who we should favor, what we should find. And I'm saying suspend all of that, at least for the moment. And let's ask some very important questions that have not yet been asked. And if they have been asked, they have not yet been answered. And from my perspective, I'm more interested in the US response than anything else. What is the US response to this whole saga, the Sikh saga? We are encouraged to have no particular feelings at all. We are encouraged to think, well, what happened was provoked, and the United States is just simply reacting in a situation that, even as a target, this is the thinking, even as a target, the United States has just cause for its actions, and frankly, it does not need to explain itself. If explanations are to be had, if explanations are warranted, that would happen in closed session, perhaps in a congressional hearing or something. But we do not need, this is the thinking, we don't need to come before the world and explain anything. We have no reason, the United States has no reason to explain itself. And even if it does have a reason to explain itself, certainly not to the riffraff that are demanding explanations. It will explain itself in a venue or in venues commensurate with its stature as a leader of the world. I have different thoughts about that. But what I do know is this. We are once again talking about the conduct of a president who insists he is not accountable to anyone for anything at any time. We are witnessing the end result based on the president's actions of the full range of permissions he has been granted so far since taking office. Whether it is just to leave him alone, whether the refusal to engage him, to demand explanations, to compel him to obey the Constitution of the United States and other world bodies, and by their actions to show that the primary concern they have is for the country. It's not about Trump and what he wants to do and what he thinks ought to be done. It's not about leaving him alone. Now we have to demand from them accountability for their inaction. This late thing that they're doing, trying to impeach him and so forth, that is so pitiful. It is so pitiful a response to the essential questions that were raised about Trump years ago. Congress, I believe, is accountable for that. The utter failure until this half-hearted attempt to rein him in via the threat of impeachment. But by the time they decided to give that a try, this president had gone off the rails a long time ago, had shown the troublesome signs of a person who is mentally defective and incapable of leading this country. And they have to explain why, despite the obvious signs of crisis in his head, he's got a lot of wars going on in his little head, they still allowed him the widest berth possible to do whatever he wanted to do. So I'm looking at the crisis now as a natural byproduct of a man who could not be tamed. It isn't because he's so powerful. It is because Congress was so cowardly. And the situation deteriorated and deteriorated to the point where we truly could say we have no idea who's running the country. He seems to be taking advice from all over the place, from Netanyahu, from right-wingers, from people who want the world to return to its ultra right-wing self. People, when we would say on this program, the country is in an agitated state, and most people can't believe what they're witnessing. Well, at some point, somebody is going to have the courage to say, this man must be put in treatment and is a threat an ongoing threat to the security of this nation. Nothing personal. It's just that there is no natural, normal way to explain how he approaches governance. And we are all dangling on a string because we know that at some point something cataclysmic will happen. And we will be forced then to deal with the reality we had known for quite a while and ignored. No matter how they frame this crisis, no matter how they cast it, it comes down to the same issue we've been talking about for years. This man, Donald Trump, has taken this nation in a direction that could only be described as insane. And yet the people, that's us, have given him permission to do whatever he wants to do. They're saying, well, that's not true. As you see, we have him up on charges. Well, I discussed the fallacy of that. This Johnny come lately reaction, and then you formalize it into something that looks meaningful, called impeachment charges, articles of impeachment, call it whatever you want to. You're way late, and you're way insufficient. The damage has already been done. For the years he has been in office doing whatever he wants to do. And you people let him. So don't stand up on your haunches now as leaders in Congress. You're still lying. You're still avoiding the issue. The only reason that the Democrats rustled up something vaguely similar to nerve to charge Donald Trump with two of the scores of charges that he should have been facing, they came up with two. They could only find two relevant ones, and both of them have to do with protecting Joe Biden. Has nothing to do. They have nothing to do with examining the damage that the president has done to this country. You come up with a silly charge of obstruction of Congress. Okay, so what? He obstructed Congress. You're not even taking that seriously to proceed with a bona fide prosecution. The charges that you have come up with so far have to do with protecting who you want to put in office, who you feel obligated to put in office and protect. Joe Biden and his son, which is the same thing, Joe Biden. All these charges, including, for example, like what happened just on Thursday, when this military leader, revered, regionally revered, was, I will use Trump's language, he was taken out. Who says that? He was taken out. That's the language of a common thug. Yeah, man, we took him out. That's not the language of a head of state. When you mean you ordered his assassination, you didn't take him out. You ordered his assassination. You ordered all of your troops who swear allegiance not to you, but to the Constitution of the United States. You changed them into regular, ordinary hitmen and thugs and ordered them to, as you say, take him out. That's what this country has come to. And they're still trying to explain the validity of this. Yeah, well, he was evil, he was this, he was that. But I don't remember any conversations in Congress about this, about the fear of the rise of such a horrible person. I don't remember testimony being given so that we can all understand how evil he was. I don't remember even a conversation about what is the best way to defuse the situation. No, no such discussions. You have a phone call, and next thing you know, here's Donald Trump from Mar-a-Lago, that decaying property that they keep patching up with new paint. He's in Mar-a-Lago having a party. And by phone, he gives the order like, a cheap mobster type. Yeah, take him out. And we have reached, this is what we ought to be discussing. This is the catastrophe where someone we know is mentally unstable, and I'm being kind using those words, by telephone can cause massive movements of troops who have no reason to be going anywhere to take anybody out. And after the call, he goes back to entertaining his friends. Making them feel special. To be in an all-slave quarters, patched up time and again because he's too cheap to really renovate. And they are to be aware at all times that this is a unique privilege. They are with the president at the White House of the South, as he calls it. They don't care what happens. Just pass the hors d'oeuvres. We're responding to this whole thing the wrong way. This should cause intense scrutiny of the so-called President of the United States. You see all the evidence that the criticisms have been on point. Now we hear silly Nancy Pelosi talking about, well, I didn't get a call saying that there was going to be this much military action. I didn't get a call. Of course, you're not going to get a call. You have been dismissed as being irrelevant a long time ago. This administration doesn't care about what you think or what should happen. You knew, you endorsed and sanctioned the occupancy of the White House by a total fraud, a person who has no reason to be there. You didn't and you haven't said boo. The things that you should have been concerned about, you and your fellow Democrats, if you want to fight, fight the Republicans. Fight the cutting off of support for people on public assistance. Fight the opposition to a living wage. Fight the lack of affordable housing. Fight for the reversal of the trend in the educational system. There are lots of fights you can have, but you're not fighting those fights. You are now totally and utterly and obsessively concentrating on making sure Joe Biden doesn't get caught up, as he ought to be, in this legal morass. What did you know? How come your son is making about $80,000 a month in an overseas company all the way in Ukraine, and you don't know about it? You have no clue about it? How he is, here's a person who was a drug addict, deep into drugs, with his mind basically taken over by it. And you know nothing about it. He goes all the way to find a hiding place in Ukraine. The same place, and with dealing with the same people that the Trump's people were dealing with. And you expect people with a thinking brain to set that aside. Here's Nancy Pelosi using all these resources. She's not fighting for a living wage. Those monies are not directed toward a major campaign to deal with improvement of some of our social maladies that people are experiencing here. No, it's to spare Joe Biden, because they've decided he is the guy who ought to emerge from all of this as the leader of the Democrats. The next leader in the White House should be Joe Biden. And you spend all this time, all this money, you're interviewing witnesses, you're gathering documents, and all this garbage. You're lying to people. You're very clear about what you're after. Because even your own future depends on you standing firmly behind Joe Biden, the guy who must be president. So I say, let's talk today about what you observe in this whole debacle that is unfolding. Don't come to any conclusions yet. It's too early. Just observe. Really, really observe what is going on. And let's talk about what, based on your observations, you really think. You take this break and come back to your thoughts at 888-874-4888 right after this. Remember, whatever it is they're presenting to us as reality, you say, thanks so much for your help, but I'm not taking it. I have my own mind. I have my own brain. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Darkness, none amongst them is the day that brings my heaven. I have passed the edge of sadness. Now I hide the depth of fear. Darkness, darkness, be my blanket. Cover me with endless night. Take away the pain of nowhere. Fill the emptiness inside. Fill the emptiness inside. Oh.
You're listening to Leid Stories on PRN.FM. I'm Nutrice Leid, and we're talking about being in the midst of, as Churchill would say, an enigma wrapped in a puzzle, wrapped in a mystery. And we are supposed to act accordingly, as if that is the only thing we need to know, and we're taking instructions from the very people who are trying to mess with our brains. Khalil from South Carolina, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you today?
Okay, Khalil, how are you?
I'm well, and I hope every other sentient being who pays attention and attends your program as well also.
Thank you.
Well, just a couple of things. You know, it appears now that the president has crossed the mark from being a sociopath into a psychopath, which means he's willing to inflict harm with no qualms about it. And that's unfortunate, but we were warned by Dr. Bandy Lee and other folks.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
And we were, and this is one of the questions I have. Why is the for-profit media ignoring the obvious? I mean, you know, people who don't have standing, but who were in the mental health field, we've been saying this, but when you don't listen to a prominent person she had to clear, when she came out a long time ago, she had to clear that with her department. I guarantee you, she had to clear that at her job before she could speak out like this. So this is not a joke. This is not silly. And this is not conjecture. And so this is a real problem. But we were warned because this administration and the particular head is willing to pull all of us down into a war to protect himself. And it's very disturbing.
And it's getting more and more apparent that he is deteriorating psychologically. He's freaking out.
Absolutely. And once again, Patrice, why are news professionals, why are they ignoring this?
Well, they don't own the systems that they work for. Most news organizations have a vested interest in one way or the other with this administration. We've noticed that the game being played is appear to ask questions, but don't ask hard questions. but appear to be doing that, and that would be enough. That way, we could continue to count on the the budgets, the advertising budgets of the army, of the armed forces, the millions and millions of dollars that they dispense. We can get lots of money from this administration uh, to keep us in line, and we will gladly oblige. There's no real journalism going on now.
Hmm. Well, I guess that's back to the money. Back to the money. It's all about the money then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, and the other issue with the Bidens and the fighting over these gas pipelines. Now, if we, honestly, they are all corrupt. It appears that way because if we look back at the research, Hillary Clinton was interested in those natural gas pipelines. So basically, it was like a void, a vacuum. It's almost like drug territory. Someone was going to have to take it over.
We are going to talk about Hillary Clinton in great detail very shortly. You'd see her interest, her and Bill, in carving up Puerto Rico from one end to the other to lay these gas lines. That's what they're interested in Puerto Rico. Other than that, Puerto Rico could go to hell in a handbasket as far as they're concerned.
Mm.
It just has these reserves, and everybody's fighting for it, including the Clintons, and especially the Clintons. They have a
Yeah.
great love of energy. Yes.
Well, I will be looking forward to hearing that, and I'm also looking forward to hearing Charles Ortel soon.
Oh, that's who's going to be doing it.
Oh, well, how about that?
Yeah. He's been working very long, very hard, and we will see in his presentations how sinister these folks are. You start, you create a foundation with the intention, the specific intention of stealing money. And there's a lot of money to be had out there from all over the world. They will come running to you with suitcases full of money. And you don't intend to do one thing that you said as a foundation. Not one. Oh, yes, it's coming.
Well, I hope he addresses the Trump Foundation, how it was shut down so quickly.
Well, the Trump Foundation never was a real foundation. It's just like the Clinton Foundation. These were not real foundations. They never obeyed the law. They just wanted it to look like they were obeying the law. But what they wanted, just like these charges of these made up charges to dispel the myth of what they're really after, which is hiding Joe Biden, protecting Joe Biden. He's not the saint. He's not the acolyte that people think he is. And they find these ways of bending things to accommodate what essentially are their criminal activities and intentions. That's what it is all about.
Utrice, I don't know how many new listeners you have, but to my ear, I'm sensing that you really have been honing in on corruption at high levels for the past couple of years, and you've been slowly, every day making a case.
What is corruption? But it's worse than that. It is the manipulation of people and a sinister way of duping them into thinking, oh, this person is really going to help us. Let's vote for that person. Let's protect our political assets. And the person is laughing, having great joy. How do you explain that you got We have $10 million missing from the so-called rebuilding effort in Haiti. And they said, oh no, we fulfilled our commitment. They built about 3 little shacks, and that's it. They have the clout, they have the network. That's where the energy goes, in building the infrastructure that protects them and all who concern them. That's where they invest their time and effort and energy, in creating a system that they can plausibly defend based on, you know, made up ideas about what they intend to do. No, as we will show, there are no records. There are no audits.
No records.
Not really. There are some things they say are records, but they don't account for themselves. They live in their own shadow world, and they're fully protected.
Well, we're in trouble.
Yeah, well, we have been. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Thank you, Khalil, for getting us started today. Lincoln from Mount Vernon, you're on the air.
Hi, Beatrice. How are you?
Okay.
I want to respond to your various points you made. I listened to an interview with Lindsey Graham, and he did inform Lindsey Graham and a few others about this attack. And the interviewer said, did he communicate with any of the Democrats? And Lindsey Graham said, no. Why should he? Because of the climate. So that's one thing you had spoken about. Another thing I want to
but it's not a legitimate explanation, you see.
Huh?
Lindsey Graham could get up and say whatever he wants to say. He knows, or ought to know, as a longtime member of the U.S. Senate, that there are procedures. You're not informed by a phone call that lasts for a couple of minutes.
No, I know that there are procedures, but when you said that he did not tell anyone, I was just pointing that out, that there were people who were,
Yeah, but understand, these people who were, quote, informed, were not the ones who should have been informed first. They're still playing with our minds. Who was Lindsey Graham?
I'm not saying this in defense. I'm saying this so that all the information could come to the table. The next thing I want to address is you spoke about the state of agitation, and the state of agitation. Hello?
Yes, I'm listening.
The state of agitation. We must be honest, and let me keep reiterating. I am not a Trump supporter. But I believe in looking at the whole picture, and especially after what they did to Gaddafi, I'm not going to allow them to hide behind Trump, because that's what's going on. A lot of people are hiding behind Trump because they don't want to blemish the people they idolize. They don't want to blemish the first black president who looked so cool. This state of agitation is not due to Trump. It is due to the coup. And it's just that Trump did not have the cool to respond. And instead, he responds to everything that's thrown at him with knee-jerk responses. The presence, just imagine, if we were truly concerned about the possibility of war, why were we all calling Trump Putin's boy? Why were we all against two presidents of the two countries that could destroy the world from getting along? And every move he made to get along with Putin, we spoke against. Why were we not wanting two countries, Russia and America, to get along? We have to look at these things. And all of this climate of agitation went all the way back to 2016. And I think that's what we are ignoring. And another point you made about him being a gangster, Trump is no less a gangster than Obama, Clinton, Bush, or any of them were. It's just that he does not use euphemism. And I think it is better to have someone like him speak out. As a matter of fact, he's more transparent. What do you think it was when Hillary Clinton came on TV and said, "We came, we saw," and he was not? That was no less a gangster and a wicked way of speaking about the murder of someone than Trump saying we took him out.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. In fact, I said the same thing. I'm not disagreeing with you at all on that point.
When Obama spoke of the killing of bin Laden, which I don't think that occurred then, because there have been so many times when it was reported bin Laden must have been like a cat, because it was reported that he was killed about 4 times. And when Obama announced the so-called killing of bin Laden, it was during the time when it was close to re-election, and it was a most least common denominator he used, trying to drum up the support of the people like the Trumpites. By saying, "Oh, we killed bin Laden," yeah. And I remember when Clinton was interviewed once, and he said, "We had a chance to kill him, and we should have killed him when we had that chance." So let us stop ignoring that they are all gangsters. They all use the same language, but because people are so angry about the Clinton losing, nobody is speaking objectively. This is not a point, but I just want to throw something in. You remember when I don't know if you remember, you Trees, but I keep notes and records. And I remember when we first started talking about Joe Biden running, and I said to you, he's doing it for his ego, etc. And you said, "This is a man with years of experience. He's been in politics for so long. Why would he want to be doing this?" You said that, you Trees, and if you go into your records, you'll see that you said that. When I first mentioned that about Joe Biden.
This sounds alien to me in my own experience about what I am likely to say and not say.
If you go through your history, you see that I said that, because whenever time I speak with you on the phone,
here's the thing: I'm not interested in who is right and who is wrong. I am
not saying that to say right or wrong. I'm not saying that to say who's right or wrong. I'm just saying that we must be consistent in our thinking and speaking. This is not to indict you.
Well, I try to be consistent in my thinking. I don't recall saying whatever it is that you just pointed out. I don't recall. That doesn't sound like me at all. But let's say I did. Let's say I did say it. What does that do?
What I'm saying is because I'm saying that we should not flip-flop on these issues.
No. You see, you're reacting. I was listening to you because you were going somewhere. Now you're becoming.
No. Don't see that I'm trying to say anything.
No. I'm saying though, I tend to remember things like that. I would tend to remember things like that. Because I
have it notated, you Trees. All I'm just trying to say, I'm just trying to point out how we are responding to all this, because
yes, but I'm saying we should be very careful to be able to differentiate how we are behaving in one set of circumstances and how we are behaving in another, because there is an overarching interest in controlling how we behave, controlling how we think. At every given time, we still are being managed in our thinking about Donald Trump.
But because you Trees, we who want Donald Trump to behave objectively are not behaving objectively. Neither are we speaking objectively, because we are all still in this emotional cauldron. And
what I'm trying to communicate to you is, I am not concerned as to what is the reason we're doing things. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned that we're not doing what
we
we're
should be,
supposed to be
because
doing.
we should be if we want to come to objectivity. We
We
should
can't
be.
handle all these things at the same time. This requires summary action. You have to move fast. You have to make up your mind quickly. We've wasted way too much time analyzing and superanalyzing, and we haven't gotten a clearer picture yet. We
Okay, but
have
let
to
me make
get
one more.
on
Let
with
me
the
make
business of
let me
saying
make one more point. I
this.
had several more, but let me just say this. You trees. When I look at how many governments the United States have destabilized and wrecked, look at what they did to. Imagine Libya is completely dysfunctional right now. I'm trying to say to you, you trees, what is going on right here is what America does daily to other countries.
Okay,
They
I agree
wreck
with you.
other
Now
people.
what?
They wreck other people's government daily. So why are we?
I agree with you, but now what?
Now what? Now this is what, you trees. Reap what you sow. That's what. Reap what you sow. We love to talk about karma and all these
No, but
things.
you see, that would apply to the entity that controls. I'm asking from the point of view, now what? From the point of view of the people.
Okay, from the point of view
It
of the
does not
people,
solve
this is
anything to say, look what they've done. Yeah, well, we should
no
expect
this
that because that's what
this is
was
what I would say
designed.
from the point of view of the people. This is what I will say then. Let us say it's just like say you breached, you have a breach. You offended someone, and it's causing an escalation of animosity, and you say, okay, we need to put this to an end. And so, to put this to an end, this is what I will say. The people must come and say, and we who are the ones who have been studying the facts and analyzing should say, you know what? We caused the Donald Trump because we have allowed so much to
But
go
that was
by
pointed
with.
out from the very beginning. That's my
But
point.
that's what we need
We
to
are
do
not
now. We don't
learning.
need to be attacking.
We are not learning.
We, the people,
We're
need to
not,
acknowledge that we caused it. You let Bush get
and
away with murdering Iraqis.
and then
We
what
caused it.
happens? The fact is, it is already fact. Whether you choose at this late date to recognize it, uh, the people played a role in it, or whether you think that the people actually deliberately created this mess and therefore have some explanation. These things I am saying are no longer relevant questions because they've been proven. Before Trump came in, they were proven. What
But,
we need
but
to
if we do
find
not
out is
address these
why.
questions, it will continue. If we do not, it's just like this thing when we keep saying choose between the lesser of the two evils. And this
No,
keeps going on.
you're saying the lesser of two evils. I'm saying
No, what
choose.
I'm giving
Be
you an
aware that you
example.
have to choose the
No,
evil of two lessers. That's what we
no,
have to
what
get in
I'm
our
giving you an
heads.
example though. You choose, but my point is this. I'm saying it's the same mentality when we keep saying, oh, we have spoken about that before. And the same mentality when we say, oh, choose between the lesser of the two evils when the election comes. And I'm saying to you, this is the way we keep behaving. So we have not moved further. You said,
No,
yes, we all like not. And we
I
will
agree
not
with
move
you.
further. We will not move further until we address the issue. We will not move forward until we, the people, the whole American citizenry, address the issue.
We have to take a different look. We cannot say we will not do this until we do that. No, because the world works differently. You have to prioritize, and you have to say, of the 20 things that are extremely important, which 5 can we tackle? That's the difference in the way we should be thinking now. All right, we have 20 things. We cannot solve all 20 things. But we could work like hell on 2 of them and absolutely produce results on the two that we choose. But we're not choosing anything. And we keep
Because of the fact that
satisfying this need to give us permission to fail. We wouldn't even try it. We're not inclined to say, okay, let's do this way for the first time. We know there are 20 things out there, we can't handle it. We don't have the resources, we don't have anything that we would need to do a successful job. But there is one thing we could do. Let's do it. We don't even get that. We are preaching constantly, basically, predictable failure and telling people this is what you have to do, as if there's a sequence to success. There isn't. There isn't. You think back to how you growing up. Your mother had to run a household with 500 different things she had to get done during the day. By some miracle, by the end of the day, she got most of those things done.
Yes, Beatrice, but in hindsight, she will realize that there are things she could have done better, and there are things that if they had paid attention to...
Who cares?
Because
I'm not looking for perfection. I'm not interested in perfection.
It sets the platform for the future. It sets the platform. That's the purpose of history.
You have to get real. Things I could have done better. No, I am satisfied. I, in fact, will be just beside myself with joy if you could show me one thing, just one thing that you have done that you did damn near perfectly. I will be happy. I'm not waiting for you to do all 20 things. I'm not expecting you to be superhuman, but I am expecting that you can select from all the things that you think you can do, offer yourself to, and bring it to fruition. You chose this one little thing and you went to town on it. I'll be happy as a lark. Well, this is the end of our program today. As I said, we will be coming to you in a short while and presenting to you a whole new analysis of the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation in specific. But I thank you so much for contributing today, and I urge you, keep your brain on. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
The edge of sadness, now I hide the depth of